Sometimes life weighs on us in such a way that we find ourselves asking, "What did I do to deserve this?" And then comes the thought, "Has God forgotten me?" But no, it's not like that. Not all pain is punishment. Some pain is refinement. Have you ever seen how gold is treated in fire? It's burned until every impurity is gone, until it truly shines. And what if that's exactly what God is doing with you right now, even if you don't understand any of it? A lot of people think blessings are only about good things, smiling faces, and when everything goes right. But some blessings come disguised as loss, as silence, as waiting. Have you noticed that the moments of greatest growth are often the ones where you felt most alone? It's like a tree that only grows deeper roots when the rain stops. When the pain hits hard, that's when God is digging deeper into you, because He wants to plant you in soil that won't let you fall later. So before you despair and assume all of this is punishment, try taking a deep breath and asking, "What is God trying to show me through this?" Because what looks like the end today might actually be the starting point of a much stronger version of yourself. It's not about punishment, it's about process. A process that transforms, that heals, that matures. And believe me, no one walks out of it untouched. But those who endure come out completely changed. Pain never shows up by accident. It's like a deep cleaning of the soul. It comes in, throws everything out of place, breaks down our certainties, and forces us to face what we've been avoiding. There are things you only notice when life tightens its grip. There are lessons only learned through pain. And that's when God works with the most precision. When everything seems to fall apart, He's actually clearing the ground. What looks like chaos today might be the foundation of something far stronger. We tend to resist discomfort because we've learned to confuse pain with punishment. But have you ever considered that sometimes discomfort is God pushing you away from what's holding you back? He pulls things out. It hurts, but He removes what weakens your faith, your vision, your identity. Pain doesn't destroy just for the sake of it. It deconstructs so it can reveal what's been hidden inside you, a strength you didn't even know you had, until it was tested. It's strange how we only discover what we're truly made of in the hardest moments. When everything collapses, that's when you learn to rebuild with what's left. And when there's nothing left, God shows you that He is the everything that remains. Yes, pain screams, but it also whispers truths that peace could never teach. And maybe, just maybe, all this preparation has a far greater purpose than you can imagine, one that will only make sense once the next step is revealed. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, and later imprisoned unjustly. Imagine how forgotten, rejected, even used he must have felt. But what looked like abandonment was actually training. God was preparing Joseph to rule an empire, but before that, he had to be shaped in silence. Pain was the school that most equipped Joseph to handle what was coming: power, influence, responsibility. Look at Job, a man of integrity and faith who lost everything in an instant: his children, health, wealth, even his friends. If it happened today, people would probably say he was paying for some kind of karma. But the truth is, Job was being refined. In the end, God restored everything, not just materially, but spiritually. Because what Job learned through pain, no isolated victory could ever teach. Sometimes, what God allows you to lose is exactly what was blinding you from seeing what truly matters. And you don't have to look far to see how true that still is today. There's a single mother who only discovered the strength she had when the father of her children walked away. There's a young adult who only started their business after being rejected by the job market. And that entrepreneur only found his true purpose after going bankrupt and starting all over again. Pain, as uncomfortable as it is, awakens dormant gifts. And maybe, if you look closely, you'll realize that even what's hurting you today could be waking up something God placed inside you a long time ago. Imagine clay in the hands of the potter. It's pressed, squeezed, spun nonstop. It feels like it's being destroyed, but in truth, It's being prepared to become something useful, beautiful, and strong. The same happens with us. God didn't place you in the middle of this pressure by accident. He's shaping your soul, refining your character, aligning your essence with the purpose He has for you. And yes, this process hurts, because growth requires breaking away from what once felt comfortable. There are days when everything slips out of your hands, and you feel like you've lost control of your life. But maybe that's exactly the point where God wants to teach you how to trust, to rest in Him even when the path doesn't make sense. Control was never yours to begin with, it's always been His. And when you realize that, something shifts inside you. You stop fighting with your hands and start fighting with your heart. That's when true strength begins to rise, quiet but powerful. In pain, you gain what peace could never teach: maturity, discernment, and vision. It's in the valley where you learn to hear God's voice more clearly, because the noise of the world fades into the background. Have you noticed how, after a crisis, you start to see things you used to overlook? That's growth. And even if you don't realize it, you're getting stronger with every step, even the ones you took through tears. And it's exactly in those moments that something even greater begins to take shape behind the scenes. Pain, by itself, doesn't transform anyone. What transforms you is what you choose to do with it. Some people sink and never rise again, but others look at the ground where they fell and use it as a stepping stone. The real turning point happens when you decide, will this pain paralyze you, or will you turn it into a bridge to something greater? Because at the end of the day, suffering only becomes a prison when you choose to live inside it. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe your greatest pain is the exact key God will use to heal others? There are women who survived domestic abuse and now help others rise again. There are people who lost everything, but learned how to teach others to rebuild. The world is full of the wounded who became healers, not because they forgot what they went through, but because they understood it had a purpose. That's what sets apart those who merely suffer from those who transform. Pain only defeats you when you believe it's the end of the story. But when you realize it's just a comma in the middle of your journey, everything changes. That's where purpose begins to take shape, in the decision to keep going, even without all the answers. Maybe you can't see it now, but what hurts you today might be exactly what pushes you into your destiny tomorrow. And it's in that moment, right there, that your vision begins to shift and your heart aligns with something greater than the pain. You can try to escape the process, look for shortcuts, distract yourself, hide, but pain will find you again. Because where there is purpose, there will be a process. And where there's a process, you can be sure there will be discomfort. God doesn't work with magic formulas. He works through processes that reveal who you are. And there's no use running. Every plant that grows before its time withers faster. And the same is true for people who avoid divine refinement. If it hurts, it's a sign that God is touching areas that need transformation. And real transformation never comes dressed in comfort. It goes deep, stirring up old wounds you've learned to hide. Sometimes He'll challenge your patience. Other times, He'll press on your pride, your ego, your need for control. Because this isn't about surface-level fixes, it's about a healing that starts on the inside before it ever shows on the outside. Don't skip the process. That's where character is forged. That's where you learn it's not about being perfect. It's about being moldable. Shallow people avoid the furnace, but it's in the heat of the process that God turns clay into vessels. And vessels that carry purpose don't need to be beautiful. They need to be strong. And strength only comes to those who remain, even when everything inside them screams to quit. So if it's hurting, it's because heaven is still working. Not all pain is punishment. Sometimes, it's the only way God can reach a heart that has gotten used to the noise and stopped hearing His voice. When words no longer touch us, God allows life to break us, so He can rebuild us the right way. Pain speaks a language that awakens the soul, opens the eyes, and realigns our steps. So if today you feel like you're being crushed, Maybe you're actually just being shaped with purpose, with love, with intention. So instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what is God trying to teach me through this? That shift in perspective changes everything. Because God never wastes suffering. He turns scars into testimonies and tears into seeds that will bloom ahead. But for that to happen, you have to embrace the process with an open heart, even when your mind still doesn't understand. The lesson always comes to the spirit first, and only later makes sense in the natural. If this message touched something inside of you, share it with someone who also needs to be reminded that pain is not the end. There are people out there who are just waiting for a single word to keep going, and you might be the one God uses for that. Don't keep to yourself what God used to wake you up. Leave a comment below sharing what this word revealed to you, because your experience could lift someone else. And remember, sometimes it's in the very moment of pain that God chooses to reveal your true beginning.